Welcome. This 5-part interview series is devoted to Savannah's 6th District City Alderman, Tony Thomas. In it, there are first-hand accounts of his alcohol abuse, drug abuse, stolen valor, lies, mismanagement of City of Savannah funds, and overt sexual predatory behavior. If you are also a victim of Tony Thomas, please reach out to us. Only your testimony can help shed a brighter light on what has occurred over the last 20+ years to an estimated 200 young boys. Forever scarred, many beset with lifelong alcohol drug abuse problems and the mental anguish of being the unwilling victim of an expert sexual groomer and abusive predator. These are the Troll Chronicles.
Hello, my name is Jackie Fury. I'm an experienced child and family therapist specializing in the area of child sexual abuse. I've worked in that area for more than 30 years and have degrees and accreditations with the state of Washington. I have my master's degree from the University of Washington in social work, my bachelor's degree in social work from the University of Alaska, and a former BA in English from the University of North Carolina. Sexual abuse is the misuse of authority or presumed love to overwhelm a child sexually, to gather their or gain their confidence, and to use them for bodily sexual purposes of the perpetrator.
I first met Tony Thomas when I was 17 years old. I was crossing the street downtown looking for a job, and he cut me off in a black Honda with a friend of his and got out with his southern accent and told me how good looking I was and that I shouldn't be walking and what was I doing, where was I from, and he pretty much got me to get in the car with him with his charm and his convincing, and he took me out, and that was the first time I met him. We went out drinking and I thought it was great. I felt like an adult. When I met Tony Thomas, I was 17 years old. I felt like I was older, that I wasn't underage. I felt like I was grown, like I wanted to be.
Predators will consciously groom young men who they've targeted as their special delight by giving them things that are very appealing to a young man. It might be a watch, a camera, it could be something like a video, or these days a good cell phone. And as the gifts proceed, so does the grooming in other ways. The predator may offer the young man or old boy summertime work. And it's sometimes hard for children to find work, so they can go for that. And he will maybe include them in little day trips or invite the child, the old boy child, to be around, say, a person of authority, someone at work, someone in the government.
Usually after we would drink for a while, he'd take me out in his truck and we'd go for a ride, show me something like Coffee Bluff or the Wharfs or something, or bring me to Tybee and we would do coke, and he'd usually pull his dick out and sit there and try to get me to touch it or do something, and this would usually go on until it gets like dawnish and he would bring me home.
There is a progression of sexual abuse that starts small, the hand holding, the arm around the shoulder, and how does it end up to be full-scale sexuality? Because it's a progression, because the child never said no, because the child feels guilty because he didn't say no. Often a predator will use alcohol or drugs to really make that old boy feel comfortable. And by the time full sexuality is on, that young man is so confused and so upset, he really doesn't know what to do anymore. There's no one he can go to who would believe him. So the predation goes on, and often the predator will keep that young man in his grip for years until the young man breaks away. Someone tells him this is wrong and you don't have to do this anymore. That is the way the predator works. It is a full-scale attempt to get completely sexual with the boy.
It was a couple weeks into it when I met him. we went out drinking a few times, and he'd taken me out and kind of introduced me into Coke and some of the other people around town that he was friends with, and then I warmed up to him and finally fooled around with him.
I am Kevin Clark. I am a proud gay rights activist and have been for many years. And I am here to speak truth and speak on behalf of all out gay people, our disgust and disdain for Alderman Tony Thomas and those like him. Mr. Thomas has long affected, unfortunately, our gay community here by just being who he is. He is a closeted, disgusting, vile, sexual predator who uses and abuses anyone in any way he can. I could speak, and I won't, for a long time about my credentials. I could just say with humility, I've done some good, and I try to always speak truth and stand tall and proud as who I am as an out gay man. Tony Thomas is, the more I'm beginning to learn, is the ultimate in defining a sick, twisted, abusive predator who must be stopped. There's already been enough damage done. There cannot be any more damage allowed to occur. Well, the grooming process can be so easily used by a person like Tony Thomas, in that they are keenly aware, they're seasoned at this kind of activity. Impress them with your credentials and your money and your fancy cars and shower them with gifts, and you have before you a wonderful piece of ass to be used and abused and passed along to your sick friends.
We drove around for a bit looking for a place to go, and then he told me about some houses that he had been building, well, allegedly that he had been building at the time. And we went out to one of them, and he toured me around, and then we went down to the living room, and he had a little setup there, and that's where we did it. We didn't really do anything. We did anal, it was mostly just oral stuff, and I was young and kind of prudish. And then we did some coke and passed out, and that was the first time.
For a seasoned sexual predator like Tony Thomas, the grooming process for a young, inexperienced, probably poor, gay or straight, they are like a piece of clay, ready to be molded.
The coke actually led to Ritalin because I couldn't afford it, and I was hanging out with a friend of his at the time, and I started doing a lot of Ritalin, and I did so much my body failed to see the color red for like a 6-month period of time, and I was really poor. I was like pretty much homeless during the time that I met Tony. That was kind of the allure of him, was I was a street kid, but I was good looking, and he'd always like pick me up and like take me to the mall or like get me something or bring me one of them fancy houses he was building. And so I couldn't really afford to go get treatment, and I ended up having to like hit rock bottom and be homeless and like sober up the hard way. Tony Thomas did help me financially. When I had hit hard times, after the first month or two of us hanging out together and partying and fooling around, he gave me a check that he had written and paid my rent for 3 months. It was a city municipal check, or a city council check, whatever he was working at the time, but it was an official city of Savannah type check. It was one of those big ones that you tear out of a book. I thought it would I shouldn't use it at first because I showed it to my best friend at the time, and we looked it over. We'd never seen anything like it before because, you know, we're two kids who are like barely making it by on cash day to day, and here I had this like, you know, big fancy official check for like over $1,000. Tony Thomas never actually told me what his job was. I didn't know at the time that he was on city council. He told me he built houses and gated communities and that he was working on developing the city of Pooler. When we did go out, we always went to sort of the same dark lit gay bars. We go to a place that doesn't exist anymore called Faces. We go to this place called Blaine's back door. You had to like walk down this sketchy alley to get to it. And we would go to Club 1, but only in the basement towards the back corner where it was really dark. And he usually always knew the bartender. And there was never any question about how old I was. And he'd always try to get me to drink really strong stuff, like really try to inebriate you and then pump some coke into you, like that would get you going. He got me a job working at a bar downtown checking IDs, of all things, when I was 18 years old. And I used to see Tony Thomas come into the bar at night and meet his dealer at the bar, and then they'd go do their deal in the bathroom by the urinals. They'd do a coke deal, usually. He doesn't smoke weed or anything. His primary drug of choice is cocaine, good cocaine. He always has to ask if it's good, is it worth a damn? And he'd take his key out and do a little bump, check it, see if it was good. I'd even see him pay for drugs with a check. I always thought it was weird when Tony would try to have sex with you that he would never take his clothes fully off. He'd just kind of like pull his dick and balls out through his fly. He'd like, and then like not say anything. Like you just look at it and that would be your cue.
The perpetrator will get rid of the old boy by telling him, I don't want you anymore. You're not attractive to me. We don't get it on like we used to. He'll make it the boy's fault, and the boy will probably be somewhat relieved to have it over with. He may also threaten that young man by saying, if you tell anybody what we did, I will tell them that you started it and it was all with your approval. He makes that boy uncredible. He has no place to go except away from the perpetrator.
After that, he started to realize how old I was, because I was pushing about 19 by then. And I actually remember the guy he was with at the time. He was really fair-skinned and blonde and young and really good-looking. He was from Israel. He was going to be going back, or that was the story they told. But I remember realizing that I couldn't compete at that point with the young things. I actually hadn't seen him in person in years. I was throwing out the trash actually yesterday, or the day before yesterday, and he was on the front page of the paper doing some weird good deed or planting trees, and I was shocked how fat he'd gotten. I was like, wow, he's really ballooned up. He doesn't even look like the same predator I remember. Tony Thomas didn't actually break up with me. He just found out how old I was, looked shocked, and then never returned my calls or called me back ever again. Because I was too old. I was out of my teens. I used to see Tony Thomas with other young things, other boys around town. That's when I knew that I didn't really have a chance at getting back with him, because his replacement of me was even younger and better looking, and I knew I had no chance. I didn't know that I was being groomed, but he always, like, when I met Tony, he already had another younger looking guy with him. He did always ask if I had friends, or friends who liked to party. I was very new to Savannah, so I didn't really know anybody. Tony Thomas would try to pass me off to his friends, especially when I was older and he realized that I was out of my teens, and I would come up to him at bars and talk to him or say hi. He would usually then say, well, this is my friend so-and-so, and you would get along great, you two should. And then he'd buy us a drink and try to get our conversation going, and then usually leave with whatever young boy he'd had with him at the time. Or he would leave with, a lot of times when we would see him out, Tony Thomas would have a very attractive female, or attractive female and her friend, and they would kind of use him as like the bait and switch, and use them to get attractive guys to come start talking with them, and then he'd use his charm and his stories and his wild lies of being a ranger and building houses and they would get it going, and then, you know, usually with a little cocaine and some free drinks, you can get anybody to leave a bar. I try to always like just put this out of my mind. I don't trust people anymore, and I have a hard time getting close with individuals. I'm glad you're getting fat, and I hope you get in trouble for this, and you deserve to go to jail. You've hurt a lot of people, whether most of the general population knows it or not.
For someone like Tony Thomas, ultimate sexual predator, he knows and gets off on the fact that he has the power to forever fuck up a young mind. By exposing and drawing these young people in to his twisted web of sickness, he can and does forever potentially maim and fuck up one's mind. Fortunately, he does not have the power to make a person gay based on any of these types of experiences. I have come to my own knowledge the hard way that one is born gay, truly born gay. That puts to bed in one quick instance all of these erroneous notions floating around still today, that one changes to be gay, that one can be changed back into being straight, these conversion therapy nonsenses. All of that is nonsense. One is born gay, one is born straight. People like Tony can, however, and do permanently fuck up one's mind, and these young people at some point will need a lot of therapy and a lot of help to clearly get back to who they really are created to be.
He would always ask, you know, he'd pick you up and he'd go, well, let me take you over here. I'm going to buy, you need some clothes. I'm going to take you, carry you over here and get you a new shirt. Or it was, what do you want? Just pick something you want or you want right now and I'll go get it for you. And it just, you know, progressed. It was just anything you could ever want, he would get it for you. And, you know, when it came down to it, he'd always say, all right, now, I went and got you something. You better go give your daddy some sugar. And, you know, he like, come on, give me a kiss. Give me a kiss. And so you'd have to lean over there and kiss him.